You were originally a special forces operative, a king of soldiers, yet, unexpectedly, you transmigrated to the primitive society, becoming a small primitive, only 10 years old. Here, not only do you have to endure hunger for 2 meals out of every 3 days, but you don't even have a pair of shorts. But you don't panic at all. With your experience from your previous life, establishing yourself in this primitive society is a piece of cake. At this moment, Chang often saw that the large wooden barrels on the ox carts were filled with indifferent expressions. The determination to refuse joining other tribes was already beginning to waver. If it was a tribe as rich as the Han tribe, it might not be a bad idea to consider joining. You scooped a bowl full of salt from the salt barrel. It looked like it weighed at least 3 pounds. Using this much to exchange for one person is the limit. Find bags to put it in yourselves. Chang snapped out of his surprise, and quickly asked Zidai to bring some animal skin bags from the tribesmen. Finally, they filled 2 bags to the brim, carried by the 2 strongest adult males from the Bian tribe. The 20 youths from the Bian tribe had now become part of the Han tribe's team, increasing from the original 27 to 47. This made you very happy. You had already made a big profit before the spring gathering. A great omen for a successful start. Soon the team set off again. But this time the speed decreased slightly, mainly because in the Bian tribe, apart from Chang and Zidai who were sitting on the ox cart, everyone else was walking. And the 20 newly joined youths took turns riding the deer, with the 20 youths you brought yourself. In this way, after traveling southwest for another 2 days, you encountered other teams. Among them was Yu Fu, also riding a large antlered deer, with his 3 or 4-year-old son sitting in his arms, accompanied by his tribesmen. Traveling with them was another tribe, the Snake tribe. Their team consisted of 31 people. 10 were warriors who had already come of age, and the rest were 10 boys and 10 girls. Their leader was an old man with white hair and a white beard, the most unique person you had seen since coming to this world, because this old guy was sitting on a sedan chair carried by 4 people. And at this moment he was leisurely playing with a large green snake. Yu Fu was very happy to see you and took the initiative to greet you. Chief Han, I didn't expect you to arrive so early. Let me introduce you. This is the snake shaman of the Snake tribe. That snake on his body is their tribe's snake god. Their snake god is truly miraculous, no matter what venomous snake bites you. As long as the snake god bites you once, you'll be healed. When I was a child, I was bitten by a venomous snake, and my father took me to the snake god to heal me. Yu Fu proudly showed off to you, as if he had a very good relationship with the Snake tribe. However, you definitely didn't believe what he said about the snake god. But it might be true that it could cure snake venom. In your previous life, you had heard that in the ancient mountains and fields, some people raised medicinal snakes, mostly venomous snakes with potent venom, which were trained from childhood to treat snake venom. Facing such a primitive era doctor, the respect that was due was still necessary. You put your right hand on your chest and nodded slightly towards the snake shaman. The snake shaman also nodded in return, but the old guy's gaze was fixed on your ox cart. He had never seen such an advanced means of transportation, which, compared to his sedan chair, was like the difference between an Audi and an Alto. In this way, the 4 teams set off again, with a total number of nearly 160 people. Yu Fu looked at the dozen or so antlered deer behind you, extremely envious. If only my Yu tribe could ride deer like this. So he asked you again, Chief Han, do you have any tasks for us to do? I would like to get some more antlered beasts. To be honest, you really didn't want to trade livestock anymore. After all, the Han tribe didn't have much itself. You then told him that you wouldn't be trading antlered beasts for the time being, and in the future, you could only use other things as rewards for doing tasks. Hearing this, Yu Fu was very disappointed. But this clever guy quickly came up with an idea. All he wanted was transportation. So why did it have to be an antlered deer? Getting an ox cart wouldn't be bad either. Chief Han, can you give me an ox cart like that? I can do anything for you. This guy was purely daydreaming. These ox carts were so difficult to make. How could they be used for trading? However, a small cart was possible, but it would cost 50 adults to exchange for it. If he wanted an ox, he would have to add another 10 people. You directly told him your idea. I estimate that your tribe probably doesn't have that many people, but I believe you definitely have a way to get people. Hearing this, Yu Fu seemed very confident. That's right, I can get you at least 100 people. But I want that kind of large 4-wheeled cart. and 2 oxen to pull it. You didn't refute him immediately, but were very curious about where he got his confidence from. The small tribe leader of about 50 people said that he could get more than 100 adults. If they were forcibly captured, you wouldn't want them. Of course not. The ones I'm looking for are all wildmen. Wildmen? Hearing these 2 words, you were shocked. What the hell? In my eyes? You are wildmen, okay. Are there even wilder ones? Seeing that you didn't believe him, Yufu told you that those so-called wildmen were actually those who wandered alone. Most of them were disabled people abandoned by their tribes. And there were also people who had committed mistakes and were expelled from their tribes. You thought about it for a moment and decisively agreed. There were so many jobs in your tribe. There were plenty of places to settle them. The disabled would follow the cripples, and the mischievous would go do hard labor, so you wouldn't be afraid of them not listening. But you had a time limit. You wanted him to deliver the people to the Han tribe before the 2nd full moon. Yufu readily agreed. And then he didn't even go to the spring gathering. He immediately took his tribesmen and headed back. Because there were too many places to run to. The entire team turned into 100 people again, continuing to advance towards the southwest. At dusk, while passing by a gentle sloping hill, you and Dua, who were scouting the road ahead, suddenly discovered 3 adult terror birds and their nest. You immediately asked Dua to go back and call more people, and you would stay here to guard them. The 3 terror birds were currently feasting on something next to the nest, seemingly enjoying their meal, and didn't bother with you at all. After a while, the main force behind you also caught up. In addition to the people from the Han tribe, there were also 6 warriors from the Snake tribe and the Bian tribe. This made the corner of your mouth twitch for a while. There were only 3 prey in total. What were so many people doing here, Chief? I told them, but the 2 tribes insisted on participating, saying that all the prey along the way had been hunted by us, and they were almost out of food. Tell them that they can have one of the 3 terror birds, but the bird feathers belong to us. Tell them all to go pick firewood. We only need 16 of our own people. The rest go protect the ox cart. Afterwards, Dua communicated with the 2 tribes, and they all came to the top of the small hill to observe. The next moment, you shouted loudly and charged out first. The remaining 15 riders, divided into 2 columns, followed closely behind you. The 3 terror birds that were devouring their prey were stunned for a moment. They had never seen this formation before, and they all stretched their necks and squawked strangely, trying to drive away the group of people in front of them. But you were going straight for them. How could you return empty-handed? You immediately ordered the tribesmen to throw spears to block the terror birds' retreat. The terror birds saw that these people had not only not been scared away, but were instead rushing towards them menacingly. Now there was nowhere to escape, so they could only charge head-on towards you. As the distance grew closer, you leaned slightly forward, the spear pointing straight ahead. At the moment of impact with the terror bird, the spear pierced the terror bird's chest. The powerful inertia directly caused the spearhead to penetrate all the way through. You slightly pulled the reins, and the deer and the terror bird brushed past each other. At the moment of the 2 bodies passing, you pulled out the spear that was exposed from the back of the terror bird. With just 1 charge, the terror bird fell directly to the ground and died. The other 2 were also successively killed under the deer. One of them was stabbed in the neck and back by Amal and Dazui together, killing it on the spot. The other one was the most ferocious, and it opened its mouth to peck at Beast Fang at the moment of encounter. As a result, Beast Fang raised his spear slightly, and the spear tip directly entered its mouth, killing it deader than dead. Seeing this scene, Didai jumped up and down in the ox cart, shouting, "Mother, the Han tribe chief is so amazing." Chang couldn't help but sigh in his heart. The Han tribe is powerful. And it's not just the chief, they are not only rich, but also have powerful warriors. We must hold on to this tribe tightly. Then, after thinking for a moment, he asked his daughter, "Dai, do you like the Han tribe's chief? If he asked you to go with him, would you be willing?" Didai was stunned upon hearing this, and then quickly nodded. "But aren't the women of our tribe only supposed to recruit sons-in-law?" Although she liked you, she never thought about marrying into the Han tribe, and was even more reluctant to leave her mother. Chang also expressed his helplessness. The other party was a chief, and it was impossible for him to marry into his tribe. He could only go back and think about it carefully before making a decision. After you and your party dragged the 3 terror birds back, everyone decided to camp here for the night. The feathers of the 3 birds all belonged to the Han tribe, and the rest of the meat was distributed to everyone. When everyone was roasting around the bonfire and eating, Zidai would often steal glances at you from time to time. This made you, a straight man of steel, feel uncomfortable all over. So you had to come to the side of the camp to get some fresh air. The night breeze was gentle, and the clear night sky was dotted with stars, making it indescribably pleasant. You turned to look towards the Dream Valley in the southwest direction. Not far ahead was a large low mountain, and you could vaguely see the mountain ridge. There seemed to be many fireflies over there. Just then, the snake shaman walked up to you, and looking in the direction you were looking, he muttered to himself, "Dream Valley is a very beautiful place. There are glowing bogs and glowing plants there. At night, even the lake water is bright. It's a good place for you young people to fall in love." He muttered and rambled on, but you didn't understand a word. However, you could clearly hear the sound of the snake scales hissing on his body. You had to get away from this weird old man quickly, because that was a highly venomous snake. Early the next morning, the team continued on its way, guided by the snake shaman. Everyone traveled continuously, and finally entered the Dream Valley area at around 2 p.m. Dream Valley was a basin, and in the middle of the valley there was a freshwater lake, covering an area of 3,000 to 4,000 acres, that spouted water. The surrounding area was covered with flowers, and butterflies the size of palms danced in flocks in the air. The most common trees in the valley were a type of willow tree that you had never seen before. Its branches were white, and the willow leaves were light pink. Countless branches swayed in the wind, like a young girl's long hair dancing, stirring the budding hearts of countless young men. The girls couldn't help but play in the flowers, chasing the colorful butterflies, and weaving beautiful garlands. The young men, their hearts filled with burgeoning spring, stared with drooling mouths, standing there like a flock of dumb geese. You went up and kicked them in the butt. "What are you looking at? Haven't you ever seen women before? Quickly unload the goods. With these good things, you won't have to worry about finding pretty young ladies." The young men scratched the backs of their heads with silly smiles and began to clear the campsite. All the mounts were tied to the willow trees on the side. There was lush grass here, allowing them to happily feast for a few days. A dozen people worked together to move a large stone slab and placed various pottery and white salt on it. The Bian tribe also set up camp next to the Han tribe. They tied nets between 2 trees to make hammocks, and the other linen shoes and ropes were also laid out, forming a small stall. The Snake tribe also set up camp on the other side of the Han tribe. Their goods were mainly snake skins, as well as some medicinal herbs. It seemed that this Snake tribe was very good at treating diseases. Throughout the afternoon, more tribes arrived one after another. Opening your eyes to this world, the Zong tribe, who were covered in tree leaf suits, had strong limbs and were good at climbing, especially when roaming on the vines. They could almost go a whole day without touching the ground. The Pig tribe, who brought raisins and brown sugar, had already learned to dry grapes, and used grape juice to fry and refine brown sugar. The L tribe, who carried huge turtle shells on their backs, looked just like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and the Cha tribe, who each held a 3-pronged wooden stick, were best at spearing fish, as well as the Kun tribe, who were covered in pheasant feathers. Except they weren't good at singing and dancing, but rather at catching pheasants. More tribes were slowly arriving. By the time the sun set in the west, there were nearly 20 tribes in total, and the number of people had reached nearly 1,000. At the moment when the afterglow of the sunset disappeared, all the young people in the valley were stunned, and then let out a chorus of exclamations. At this moment, the entire valley lit up in an instant, making people feel as if they were in a dream. Completely mesmerized, in the lake in the valley, a faint blue light illuminated the entire lake, making it clear and bright. Countless flowers also bloomed with colorful fluorescent light. The tall white weeping willows were even more dazzling than during the day, like LED light strips dancing in the wind. Even the butterflies, which only looked somewhat colorful during the day, now flickered with gorgeous spots of light like fireflies, beautiful yet with a hint of strange allure. All the young men and women on the shore of the lake stood there in a daze, stunned by this dreamlike beauty. The most composed were the old people who had come many times. They called out to their tribesmen one after another, and began to prepare for this year's spring gathering. The form of the spring gathering was actually more like a fair or temple fair. Everyone put out the specialties of their respective tribes, and if they saw something that the tribe needed while browsing, they could propose a trade. If a girl saw a young man she liked, She could tie a strand of her hair to the boy's weapon. If the boy agreed, he would take a gift to the other party's tribal leader to propose marriage. And then he could take the girl away. If a boy took a fancy to a pretty young lady, he would have to catch a fluorescent butterfly in the valley and give it to her. If the girl accepted it, the boy would also have to take a gift to the other party's leader to propose marriage. If two young men took a fancy to the same girl, they would have to use a duel to compete for the right to choose a mate. The two sides could not use weapons, and as long as there were no casualties, the final winner could take the girl away. These rules were told to you by Chan of the Bian tribe. This made you, the chief, feel a little embarrassed. You pretended to cough a few times to cover up your embarrassment, and then shouted to your tribesmen, "What are you all standing there for? Hurry up and catch butterflies." The next moment, 40 young men swarmed towards the butterflies. The other tribes were not idle either. Some began to wander around aimlessly. Some went to flirt with the young ladies, and some began to trade. But you were cooking. The terror bird meat from yesterday hadn't been finished yet. You cut the meat into small pieces, inserted them onto branches to make meat skewers, and roasted them directly, while turning them over the fire. You also sprinkled salt and chili powder. Shaito also caught a few fish in the shallow water by the lake. After cleaning them, he set up a stone slab next to you and fried the fish on it. Beast Fang also built two stoves out of stones on the side, and used lake water to stew 2 pots of fish soup. For a time, the aroma of meat attracted the young ladies from the surrounding area. They all gathered around, watching the novel way of eating of the Han tribe, as well as the special attire of the Han tribe. Their men all had their hair tied up, and wore glittering decorations on their hair. Everyone looked clean and spirited. Some people were also curiously looking at the goods of the Han tribe. They had never seen so many food bowls. The young men who were catching butterflies suddenly noticed something was wrong. "It seems we don't need to catch butterflies anymore. Those young ladies have already taken the initiative to run over to our tribe." In this way, a group of energetic young men ran back, shouting and yelling. In fact, what attracted these girls was not just the food of the Han tribe, but the ox cart, which looked like a small house, was enough to attract people. Moreover, there were more than a dozen deer and cattle tied to the surrounding willow trees. Since they could raise so many living things and not eat them, it meant that the other party's tribe must be very powerful and not lacking in food at all. Which tribe wouldn't want to marry into such a tribe? The girls stood together in 2s and 3s, looking at the young men who had just returned from catching butterflies, assessing their looks and bodies, as well as their weapons. After looking around, a girl from the Cha tribe stopped beside Dazui, cut off a strand of her hair, and tied it to his copper spear. Dazui stood there grinning foolishly. The little partners around him pushed him from behind. He staggered and hugged the girl in his arms, and then froze, blushing. The girl wasn't shy either. She kissed Dazui on the cheek and ran quickly back to her tribe stall. Dazui froze on the spot, at a loss. Amao on the side became anxious and hurriedly urged, "What are you standing there for? Hurry up and propose marriage." Dazui then came back to his senses, but he was worried because he hadn't prepared a gift at all. Amao's mind turned quickly, and he immediately suggested, "Go ask the chief and let the chief think of a way." Dazui thought it made sense and immediately ran to your side to ask for your opinion. Looking at his anxious appearance, you teased him and took a small pottery bowl, and then scooped half a bowl of white salt and handed it to him. "Take this and I guarantee you'll bring the girl home." Dazui was overjoyed upon hearing this, and happily holding half a bowl of white salt, he ran excitedly to the Cha tribe's stall. He first politely placed one hand on his chest, bowed slightly, and respectfully greeted the Cha tribe's chief, and then held half a bowl of white salt in front of the other party. The Cha chief first looked at the pottery bowl, thinking that although the pottery was a bit small, it was sincere enough. But when he saw the white sand in the bowl, he was stunned because he didn't recognize what it was. He took the pottery bowl, first sniffed it with his nose, and found that there was no smell at all, and then pointed to the bowl and asked, "What is this thing? What is it for?" Although Dazui couldn't understand, he could see that the Cha chief looked puzzled. He pointed to the bowl, said the word, "white salt," and then dipped a little with his hand and put it in his mouth. The Cha chief followed suit, and pinched a little and put it in his mouth. The next moment, the unique salty taste of sodium chloride exploded in his mouth. The Cha chief almost didn't choke to death, and his eyes widened instantly. But he still endured the salty taste and swallowed the salt, and then quickly asked, How much of this thing does your tribe have? Are you willing to trade it? Dazui was confused, and couldn't understand what was going on at all. Seeing the Cha chief's nervous and anxious appearance, Dazui thought he was not satisfied, and then tentatively pointed to the girl. The Cha chief was stunned, and then he remembered what Dazui was here for, and then nodded affirmatively, and led the girl to Dazui's side. Dazui happily held the girl's hand and grinned foolishly. Afterwards, he followed a few little partners and took the girl back. The Cha chief turned around and handed half a bowl of white salt to a warrior in his tribe, telling him to take good care of it, and then followed Dazui to the front of the Han tribe stall. He saw that on the Han tribe stall, many pottery were neatly placed, as well as a pot full of white salt. The Cha tribe chief didn't speak directly, but stood in the crowd and carefully looked at the Han tribe, wondering if this tribe had come before. But after scanning around, he saw two familiar figures. One was Dua, who had a scar on his face, and the other was Beast Fan, who had two saber-toothed tiger fangs hanging around his neck. These two people's images were too easy to remember. It's just that their chief is so young. In the crowd, there were also several chiefs from other tribes stopping to watch, like the Tan tribe, who could use animal tendons to make slingshots. Their tribe usually also cooked soup, but not with pottery bowls, but with animal skins, scooping the animal skin into a skin sack, filling it with water and food, and then throwing the scalding hot stones into the skin sack, and the water and food inside would be scalded, which was a very primitive method. And the chief of the Dan tribe was attracted by the pot of fish soup, and he took a fancy to the pottery pot that could directly cook soup. There was also the pig tribe, who stir-fried brown sugar with grape juice. They also needed a container that could be heated directly to stir-fry brown sugar. In addition, there was the Gu tribe, who were good at identifying mushrooms, and the O tribe, who wore armor on their bodies and liked to use large turtle lids as shields. The Zu tribe, who were good at digging holes. The Yo tribe, whose warriors all wore beast tooth earrings, and the Fiashai tribe, who were very good at playing with catapults. The chiefs of these tribes were purely attracted by the Han tribe's cattle and deer, as well as the truck. As for the chiefs of some Bear tribe, Wu tribe, Wen tribe, Leon tribe, Go tribe, Zong tribe, and Thorns tribe, they didn't care and were still taking care of their stalls. But some of their tribesmen were gathered here, and a group of people looked at the people cooking, and pinched a little of that white sand and sprinkled it on the food, and couldn't help but become curious, because the sand melted quickly when it was sprinkled on fried fish and roasted meat, which made them even more curious. And they discussed what it was. After watching for a while, someone finally couldn't help it. The Yo chief, with two thin tooth earrings, pointed to the pot of white salt and asked, "What is this thing? Is it edible?" You smiled and took a skewer of cooked roasted meat, handed it to him, and pointed to the pottery pot and said the word, "White salt." The Yo chief took the roasted meat, repeated the common term, "white salt," and took a bite of the roasted meat. The spicy and salty taste, and the aroma of the roasted meat instantly conquered his taste buds, and he couldn't help but exclaim, "This meat is really fragrant." But he felt that something was strange again, and then he took another bite, carefully savoring it in his mouth. You pinched a little white salt and put it in his hand, gesturing for him to taste it. Then you grabbed a handful and distributed it to the surrounding chiefs for tasting. The Yo chief immediately put the salt in his mouth, frowned, and carefully tasted the salty taste. The surrounding chiefs saw that the Yo chief had eaten the white salt and seemed to be fine, so they followed suit and tasted it. The moment the white salt entered the mouth, a pure salty taste exploded. The chiefs were stunned at the same time. They had all eaten salty things, but it was the first time they had eaten such pure white salt. Several chiefs couldn't help but swallow, and then asked in unison, "How do you trade white salt?" Seeing that the goal had been achieved, you didn't sell any more tricks. You took a small pottery bowl, poured a full bowl of white salt, gesturing that so much white salt would be exchanged for a boy. Several chiefs were stunned, seeming to think that the asking price was a bit high, but they thought about it carefully. Such good white salt, who knows how the Han tribe got it? If it was particularly difficult to make, then it was understandable to exchange it for a man. The Yo chief wanted to bargain with you again. He took a large pottery bowl from the side, and then filled the bowl with rock salt, gesturing to exchange so much for a boy. You took the large pottery bowl, poured all the salt in it onto the small pottery bowl, making the small pottery bowl piled up into a point. Just this much, exchange it for a boy, no more. You gave a lot more on the original basis, which made the chief feel very honored. Looking at that pottery bowl of white salt, he thought that he must buy more. There were more than 200 people in his tribe, and there were 17 boys that he brought out this time, so he gritted his teeth and stretched out to palms, wanting to exchange 10 people for white salt. You nodded and told him to bring his own bags, because you didn't have anything to pack it in for him. The chief turned around and instructed a warrior beside him. The warrior ran away quickly, and soon led 10 boys with beast tooth earrings and to python skin bags. You personally put the white salt into the bags bowl by bowl, and 10 boys stood behind you one by one. Seeing that the salt in the pot was about to bottom out, the chiefs of the surrounding other tribes were not calm, and they all squeezed to the front to exchange first. Some exchanged 20 people, some exchanged 10 people, and even those with fewer people exchanged 5 people. The scene in front of you made your heart bloom with joy. Ha ha, I'm getting rich. I'm getting rich. However, you didn't lose your rationality. You turned around and whispered a few words to the Beast Fang beside you. Beast Fang nodded, turned back and gave some instructions to several old warriors. Then, he led 2 people and carried 2 large wooden barrels filled with salt. Dolly led 10 young men from the Han tribe, holding bronze spears, and surrounded you and the stall to guard. Dua led another 10 people to guard the ox carts and livestock. Yumao, Shitu, and Shujuan, the 3 of them were specially responsible for receiving the new tribe members. They immediately tied their hair with hemp ropes on the spot to distinguish them from other tribes. Looking at the white salt in the pottery pot at the stall, which had been completely bought by the previous tribes, the leaders of the other tribes were very anxious and urged their tribesmen to hurry up. But in the blink of an eye, they saw that someone had carried 2 more round and plump large wooden barrels. There were also several more guards with spears around. You rolled the wooden barrel that still had half a barrel of white salt to the front of the stall with a rumble. You used a wooden hammer to break open the wooden plug on it and showed them the remaining half barrel of salt inside. The several leaders around were all startled when they saw this round wooden barrel. It was the first time they had seen such a large, exquisite and round container. Moreover, it had a lid and could be locked. This thing was so advanced. When they saw you pour out another basin of white salt from that large barrel, they finally felt relieved. One by one, the boys had their hair tied up and stood behind you. Your half barrel of salt was quickly emptied, so you opened another full barrel to fill salt for them. There were more and more people here. Many of them ran to the stall of the Han tribe, among whom were the tribal leaders who hadn't come before. For a while, the stall of the Han tribe became the center and focus of the entire spring meeting. Even some girls who originally wanted to flirt with the handsome boys also gathered around, because there were the most men in the Han tribe. But soon, a special situation occurred. A fire chief with a bare, muscular upper body and burn scars on his chest forming a flame totem came in front of you. First, he sized up the people of the Han tribe, then looked at the things of the Han tribe. Finally, he directly took out 30 young men to trade for white salt. 30. That was all the boys the fire tribe had brought this time. The remaining 10 people in their tribe were all adult warriors. You thought to yourself, haha, you have quite a lot of people. You really are willing to part with them. But of course, I won't refuse anyone who comes. There's no reason to turn down the labor force that comes to my door. Then you took out the same amount of white salt as you gave 2 others and exchanged it with the fire tribe. In this way, the trading didn't end until everyone couldn't offer anyone for trade anymore. There were a total of 18 tribes that came to the spring meeting, and the other 17 tribes all traded with the Han tribe. On average, each tribe offered more than 10 people. Coupled with the 20 people before the tribal organization, the population of the Han tribe had reached an astonishing 215. And the cost was only a few hundred catties of salt. This was a huge profit. However, due to the crazy act of the Han tribe buying people, many girls in other tribes had no one to choose from. In the end, they could only come to the Han tribe to choose a man, especially before the trade. Some young men and women had already completed the matter of choosing a partner, and then they were traded to the Han tribe. So those girls who had found their own partners had to follow their men and join the Han tribe together. At this time, some leaders were not happy. The Han tribe had taken too much advantage. A bowl of white salt not only exchanged for a boy, but also abducted 1 or 2 girls from them. This was a huge loss, so they all demanded compensation. You weren't stingy either. according to their needs. You compensated them directly with pottery bowls, or pottery pots, or white salt according to the number of people. The pig tribe even received a large wooden barrel for holding salt, which they said was used to hold grape juice. You gave them a return gift equivalent to the price of 10 girls. I just don't know if they will be able to make wine with the wooden barrel. After a round of trading, most of the goods brought by the Han tribe were sold out. The population also rose rapidly. There were 343 girls who directly married into the Han tribe. On average, each boy had 1 or 2 women. The main reason was that the Han tribe was too wealthy. Many girls were willing to marry into the Han tribe. All these people added up to as many as 558, which was more than the original total population of the Han tribe. Of course, not all girls in other tribes were willing to marry. You know, the young men traded to the Han tribe were all selected from the bottom up. Each tribal leader had kept the most elite and robust boys in their own tribes. To put it bluntly, the weakest looking boy was sold to the Han tribe first. So, some girls were also assigned to other tribes and married to the young men they thought were robust. The most disadvantaged tribe this time should be the Bian tribe. They originally planned to recruit sons-in-law at the spring meeting. However, because the Han tribe bought a large number of men, they didn't recruit a single son-in-law. Chang wanted to exchange hemp nets and hemp cloth for men. But unfortunately, other tribes didn't agree. Compared with hemp cloth, white salt was obviously more important. So of course they directly used it to exchange for salt. As a result, the Bian tribe finally completely became an insignificant presence. Their leader Chang was also very helpless. Compared with the white salt of the Han tribe, their mesh hemp cloth had no attraction at all. Chang asked Xiaodi helplessly, "Guy, what have you thought about? Do you want to join the Han tribe and marry their leader?" Xiaodi avoided answering directly. "Emu, many girls married into the Han tribe today. Why doesn't their leader have any of them for himself? Doesn't he like women? I always feel that he doesn't like me either. In fact, quite a few girls took a fancy to you today. The Han tribe was so wealthy. And you were not bad looking either. Moreover, you were the leader of a large tribe with hundreds of people. You were the first choice in the hearts of many girls. Some bold girls even took a lock of their own long hair and wanted to tie it to your weapon. However, they found that as a dignified leader, you didn't carry any weapon on you at all. This made those girls stunned. They were wondering in their hearts, was this going too far? Could it be that he was gay? In fact, you were completely normal in terms of sexual orientation. But few of those women could catch your eye. When you were filling salt for others at that time, a girl from the Shang tribe came towards you with a lock of hair. You were so scared that your hand holding the salt trembled. The leader who was buying salt almost got angry at that time and questioned, "What the hell do you mean? Why did you deliberately spill some salt when filling it for me? How could he know what you had seen?" The girl from the Shang tribe was big and strong, just like Ru Huo. She actually came in front of you and stretched out her arm to show off her biceps. You were completely overwhelmed. You immediately wanted to pour a bowl of salt on her face. At this time, Chang himself was also a bit uncertain. Maybe it was because you weren't an adult yet and didn't want to find a woman so early. Or maybe you just hadn't seen the one you liked. Xiaodi asked without confidence, "Then will he like me? He didn't like so many girls today." Chang instigated, "Why don't you go and give it a try?" Xiaodi thought for a while and seemed to have made up her mind. She said in a low voice, "Then I'll go and give it a try." Then Xiaodi braided a lock of her own long hair into a thin twisted braid. She cut it off with a stone knife and held it in her hand. With her hands behind her back, she walked towards you. At this time, you were still sitting in front of the stall eating roast meat. Xiaodi suddenly came over from the side, took out her little twisted braid, and directly tied it to your wrist. She also tied a dead knot.